Welcome to a new series that we need a name for, but it's basically going to go over a bunch of horse terminology. So horse terms that you're going to need to know if you're watching my channel. You're going to hear me say it all the time. Now, we're going to do some pretty basic ones in this first episode, but we want to hear from y'all. What do you want to know? What do you want clarification on? What do you want explained that you hear in these videos or that you've heard in other people's videos? So, because I'm already on Ethel, we're going to do some riding and some about just the horse. So while I'm on and in the saddle, let's talk about the gaits that you will see on my channel. The walk, the trot, the lope, the extended trot, the jog, all those things. Honestly, let's just do walk, trot, lope / canter. Yeah, so walk first. Okay, so I'm on Miss Ethel today. We're riding around. I'm riding in Western tack. And so I'm gonna go over the walk, the jog, and the lope. If I were to be either in a ranch saddle or an English saddle, I would be talking about the walk, trot, and the canter. They're basically the same thing at different speeds. So due to the fact that I don't have an English saddle to throw on her at the moment, I'm just gonna do the speed changes on her and tell you the trot versus the jog, the lope versus the canter. So the walk is the same either way, it's just gonna be a little bit slower. So the walk, exhibited right here, is a 4-beat gait. So each foot that is going on the ground has its own beat. If you could slow this down and show that each foot placement is happening at its own beat, not a single other foot is going to match up with it. That is a walk. For the sake of the video, and I think a lot more people are going to understand trot versus jog, we'll show the trot first. Now, a trot is a motion that is a 2-beat. So you'll notice that her diagonal legs are hitting the ground at the exact same time. So there are only 2 beats of hooves hitting the ground. A trot is going to be more forward meaning faster. It is going to be covering more ground. I am posting at the trot at the moment. Posting at the trot is another term that you'll hear. So posting is when I'm going up and down with each stride. It allows me to go with the motion of the horse. We might cover that in another horse terms video, more about riding. But for the trot, the speed should be covering ground and have a moment of suspension. Now, Ethel is a little Western pony, so I don't know that she's really gonna be having much suspension, but this trot is a lot more forward moving than her jog. Now, let me bring her down to the jog. Now, her jog is also a 2-beat motion. It's a lot slower. It's a lot more flat-footed, but you'll notice her diagonals are hitting the ground at the same time. Now, whether you like it, whichever one you prefer, that doesn't necessarily matter. But when I refer to a jog, I'm referring to a slowed down trot, a 2-beat motion. Whoa. Next, we're going to talk about the lope. The lope is going to be a slowed down version of the canter. Both of them are gaits that you will see in both Western and English events. The lope and the canter are both 3-beated gaits. So you'll notice that there are 3 times that feet hit the ground. So going to the right, this is the right lead. We can talk about leads at another time if you would like, but the outside front leg and the inside back leg should be hitting at the exact same time. Front right leg, because we're on the right lead, it should be having its own beat. The back left leg should also have its own beat. And then for the other lead, it would swap which diagonals hit. So you should notice as I lope her that her front left and her back right will hit at the same time, and then her other 2 feet will have their own beat. Now, mind you, Ethel is very out of shape. She has not been trained in years. Her baby was just weaned 6 weeks ago, so this is not a very strong lope, but it is slow. She is hitting her diagonals, and you can see that once I start pushing her up, so now I'm going to push her up into a canter from the lope. It's the same gait. So we're not changing the gait. We're just changing the speed and the length of stride and the collection at which she does the gait. So this is still a slow canter. Some might even still call it a lope. But you'll notice those same legs are still hitting the same at the diagonal. And she is still extending the most with her front right because this is the right lead. And even though she's a little Western horse, this is a canter. Whoa. Another cue that you'll hear me tell my horses is to whoa, and that's on the ground and in the saddle. So I will say whoa from a walk, a trot, and a lope, and they should stop. Whoa means to stop. It's a halt. So halt is usually asked for with whoa, but the actual, I wouldn't say gait, but the actual action itself is the action of halting. They are halting their movement. So let me do a little example. I'm going to halt her here. Whoa. And she stopped. Another thing that you'll hear me talk about is pivoting. Now, Ethel doesn't have a great pivot, but I think I can do a good job of demonstrating. So a pivot is when they can actually pivot on the forehand and on the hindquarters. So if you are pivoting on the hindquarters, then one of their back feet should stay planted as they move their entire front end around that planted foot in the back. So they should cross their feet in the front. But if I'm saying I'm going to do a 360 degree pivot to the right on the hindquarters, on the haunches, this is what I mean. Whoa. I don't think that was the snappiest or best pivot, but that's what it means. If I was going to do a pivot on the forehand, meaning the front end, then I would be keeping her front end still and moving her hip around her front end. So if I was doing a 360 degrees to the right, again, I don't think I've even asked her to do that in like 7 years. So I'm so glad she just did that. But that was a pivot on the forehand. Thank you, Ethel, for actually doing those things. It wasn't going to be the fanciest ever, but I think it did a good job of demonstrating. I'm so sorry for the noise from construction. I think this would be a really good series to continue with. I love to educate on this channel, and so if there's anything, simple as it may be, we can talk about the things that are within the horse's stall. We can talk about the horses themselves and the terms for them. Maybe their anatomy, maybe tack, maybe all the things that you might do to a horse when grooming them. Get simple, get complicated. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see in a horse terminology series, and also give me some name ideas. We kind of came up with this on the spot. So hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something. Let me know if you have any more questions, and give me your suggestions for future episodes.